The night sky over the Persian Gulf fractured into a mosaic of kinetic energy as the first salvos of Tomahawk land attack missiles transitioned from the pressurized tubes of the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group into the low-altitude corridors of the Iranian coastline. Far below the flight paths of these subsonic munitions, the humid air of the Strait of Hormuz thrummed with the low-frequency vibration of multi-stage rocket boosters, while the rhythmic flashes of Iranian air defense batteries began to the horizon from Bandar Abbas to the mountainous interior of the Lorestan province. On the ground, the environmental reality was one of sudden, clinical violence. The sharp scent of ozone and burning propellant filled the air as secondary explosions from underground fuel depots sent plumes of dark, acrid smoke billowing into the stratosphere, visible even to satellite sensors in high Earth orbit. This was not a localized skirmish or a routine freedom of navigation exercise. It was the most comprehensive aerial decapitation strike against the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps' strategic infrastructure in the history of the modern Middle East. According to Iranian state media and official statements released by the IRGC's Public Relations Office in Tehran, the United States Navy initiated a series of unprovoked and cowardly strikes against sovereign military installations that were purportedly engaged in routine defensive posture. Iranian officials claimed that the American operation targeted civilian-adjacent infrastructure and that their domestic air defense networks, including the domestically produced Bavar 373 and Khordad 15 systems, successfully intercepted a majority of the incoming munitions before they could reach their intended coordinates. Military spokesman in Tehran stated that the IRGC's aerospace forces have already conducted a proportional response, claiming to have neutralized several U.S. radar systems and naval assets operating within what they describe as the occupied maritime zones of the Gulf. Symbolically, the Iranian leadership has framed these events as the opening of a new era of resistance, asserting that the presence of the U.S. Fifth Fleet is no longer tenable, and that the IRGC maintains the sovereign right to secure the Strait of Hormuz against what they term foreign maritime aggression. But the story quickly became far more complicated. Before we break down the specific technical capabilities of the U.S. Navy's Tomahawk Block V missiles and the strategic layout of the 14 targeted IRGC command centers and naval bases, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the latest dramatic developments shaping global geopolitics. We are committed to bringing you the most detailed, analytical reports on the maneuvers that define international security, and your engagement ensures we can continue to track these high-stakes escalations as they happen. According to U.S. Central Command and senior defense officials in Washington, the operation was a precisely calibrated response to a series of escalating provocations, including the confirmed Iranian strikes on maritime shipping and regional infrastructure. U.S. authorities stated that the Navy launched a coordinated strike on 14 distinct IRGC command centers and major naval bases, focusing specifically on facilities that analysts have identified as critical nodes for Iranian maritime asymmetrical warfare and drone launch capabilities. To understand the scale of this counter-narrative, one must look at the technical mechanisms of modern naval warfare. The U.S. Navy utilizes Aegis-equipped destroyers to create a multi-layered defensive umbrella, using Standard Missile 3 and SM-6 interceptors to neutralize incoming threats while simultaneously deploying EA-37B Compass Call aircraft to jam Iranian early warning radars and communication links. Western intelligence reports suggest that, contrary to Tehran's claims of successful interceptions, satellite imagery confirms significant structural damage to the command structures and naval piers, effectively neutering the IRGC's ability to sustain high-volume coordination in the Gulf. Between these narratives lies a complex reality that analysts are still working to understand. Why do these 14 specific targets carry such immense strategic weight in the current global standoff? The answer lies in the geography of the Persian Gulf and the vital role of the IRGC naval infrastructure in projecting power across the world's most critical energy transit point. By targeting the command centers at Bandar Abbas and the naval facilities on Qeshm Island, the U.S. Navy has effectively struck the nervous system of Iran's regional deterrent, as these locations house the commanders and communication arrays necessary to coordinate swarm attacks and mine-laying operations. Attacking these facilities sends a strategic signal that the U.S. is no longer willing to tolerate the gray zone warfare utilized by the IRGC, where proxies and covert strikes are used to avoid direct state-on-state accountability. Furthermore, the inclusion of these command nodes is significant because it degrades the IRGC's ability to utilize its fast attack craft fleet, a capability essential for harassing international tankers. The message was clear. The United States has the intelligence, the reach, and the political will to dismantle the IRGC's primary maritime toolkit in a single operational window. The cascading consequences of this strike began within minutes of the final impact, triggering an escalation pyramid that is currently reshaping the global order. First, the immediate military reaction saw the deployment of additional U.S. MQ-9 Reaper drones over the region to conduct real-time battle damage assessment, while the IRGC Navy reportedly scrambled remaining assets in a desperate attempt to show resilience. Second, regional governments reacted with a mixture of quiet support and public alarm. The United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia immediately went to their highest state of military readiness, with regional air defenses intercepting dozens of Iranian-aligned drone launches. Third, the global market and economic reaction was instantaneous, as oil prices surged by nearly 12% in overnight trading, with Brent crude crossing the $110 mark amid fears of a prolonged closure of the Strait of Hormuz. That spike in energy volatility has consequences far beyond the borders of the Gulf. Fourth, diplomatic channels reached a fever pitch as NATO allies expressed a cautious recognition of the threat posed by the IRGC, yet simultaneously pressured Washington to avoid a full-scale ground invasion that could destabilize the European energy sector. Finally, the domestic political reaction in the United States has seen a sharp divide, with the White House briefing congressional leaders on the necessity of the operation, while critics question the long-term financial and human costs of a second major conflict in the Middle East. The Iranian government maintains that the U.S. strike was a failed attempt to weaken its national resolve, and that its naval capabilities remain largely intact. The United States maintains that the mission successfully degraded the IRGC's strategic command infrastructure and has established a new baseline for regional deterrence. As the smoke clears from the 14 targeted bases, the international community finds itself at a crossroads where the line between a limited punitive strike and a full-scale regional war has become dangerously thin. The sudden decapitation of the IRGC's regional coordination, combined with this latest naval assault, has created a power vacuum that could lead to either a total regime collapse or a desperate, scorched-earth retaliation by the remaining hardliners. Will this massive naval strike remain an isolated incident, or is it the beginning of something far larger? Stay tuned for further updates as this situation continues to develop. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss the latest dramatic geopolitical developments shaping the world.
Interceptors launched. Threat neutralized at grid reference 4 privatization. All units stand down.